Good morning, my dear students. In this video, I would like to discuss the topic environmental values. We will discuss what environmental values are, and also we will discuss some of the aspects related to environment values. Now, take a look at the chapter. We know that every human being has a great variety of feelings for his or her surroundings. We live in this earth and we have great feeling concerns for our environment. It varies from individual to individual. Now let us take a look at the attitude of the Westerners or the modern Western attitude towards environment. It is utilitarian in nature. What do you mean by utilitarian? The Western modern approach values the resources of environment for their use value. For example, they value a river for its water. They value a forest for the timber and the other non-wood items that we get from the forest. They value a sea for the fish that it provides. So this is what we call utilitarian attitude towards environment. Instead of this, we need to have a different perspective about environment. So let us look at the attitude of the Westerners and the native attitude towards environment. We can say that the colonizers' view, the West view is that of utilitarian in nature, and it is profit oriented, and also it is exploitative. On the other hand, we have the native view. What is so special about that native view? It's an inherent feeling for preserving nature, inherent innate feeling, a feeling that comes from within for preserving nature. And it also believes in oneness of all creation. The native view considers human beings as part of the environment. We are one among the many creatures of this earth. And also the native view respects and value for different components of nature. We know that there are different aspects that we find in this earth, and the native view respects and value different components of nature. So these are some of the differences that we find when we analyze the native and the colonizers or the Western modern approach to that of environment. Now we need a change in attitude. What is that? As we have mentioned, we need to respect and value different components of nature. Indian thought supports this concept. If you analyze the writings of the Indian philosophers, we find that they always talk about the oneness of human beings with the different aspects of human nature. The environment. We also should develop pro-conservation actions in all our day-to-day activities. We should also have pro-conservation actions in all our day-to-day activities. We should think about the way in which our actions reflect on the environment. And also we should consciously avoid the adverse environmental impacts of our actions. Only if we think about it consciously, we can minimize the damage of our actions that cause a negative impact on the environment. Now, how can we create a positive attitude? This is also very important. We should understand that humans have an inborn desire to explore nature and to unravel its mysteries. This is innate in us. It is inborn in us. But somehow modern societies and educational processes suppress these innate sentiments. We are not allowed to explore the nature. We are not exposed to the wonders of the wilderness. So we need to be exposed to the wonders of the wilderness. What will happen if you are exposed to nature? This will help to bond closely to nature and to appreciate its complexity and fragility. We understand how complex our environment is. We also understand how fragile our environment is. So, what we will do? This feeling will help us to awaken a new desire to protect natural heritage. This feeling we can find it is emphasized in our constitution. Our constitution talks about the need to protect the environment. Now, let's take a look at the value system related to environment in the past and today. In the past, shooting of animals or killing a tiger was considered as a sport or royal or brave. But today we know that this activity has been looked down upon as a crime against biodiversity conservation. In the past, when you analyze literature, we find that the king, the royal people, they go for hunting, they kill tiger, they kill other animals. It was considered a brave act. But today we know that even the actors or the people who are respected in the society, if they kill animals, they will be arrested, because this is a new concern that we have. We know that we need to protect the biodiversity. So killing of animals, we can find that it has been looked down upon as a crime today. And look at the past attitude towards cutting of trees. Cutting a few trees was not very significant. It was not considered as a wrong behavior. But today we know that it's a major concern for us. Throwing away degradable garbage was not considered wrong because we have vast areas. But today we know that it is considered extremely damaging to the environment. So these are some of the changes that we find today when we looked at the consciousness that we have towards environment. Then we need to talk about the environmental value education. What are the ideas that we need to inculcate when we talk about environmental value education? We need to appreciate the negative effects of our actions on the environment, and it must become a part of our day-to-day thinking. We never think about what our actions will cause to environment. But if we think about it on a daily basis, we will definitely take conscious efforts to minimize the negative impacts of our actions on the environment. So this is the first important aspect that we need to consider. Appreciate the negative effects of our actions on the environment and think about it consciously on a regular basis. Support a sustainable form of development. We know that today, when we talk about development, we praise the development in the field of science and technology. Development should take into account the all walks of life. A sustainable form of development is something that we need to appreciate. We need to support. We have to create awareness on the consequences of unlimited and unrestrained anti-environmental behavior. We are not outrightly rejecting what we call the idea of development. But what we lack today is we have lack of awareness about the consequences of unlimited and unrestrained anti-environmental behavior. If we are able to create awareness among people, then we can develop a wonderful attitude towards the concept of development as such. Development should take into account, as I mentioned, sustainable life on the earth. All walks of life, all sections of society should get the benefit of development. It should not be limited to the development in the field of science and technology. And third point, develop an appropriate behavior in relation to our surroundings and to other species on the earth. This is a very important part of environmental values. We are connected to different other species. We have to understand that we have existence only if we are able to accept this fact. We are connected to our surroundings. We cannot cut away from our surroundings. This is a very important point that we need to consider. Now, role of education. We have to think about the role of education. Education plays a vital role in inculcating these attitudes among students. Look at this. It should strengthen pro-environmental behavior and prevent anti-environmental actions. It has to be taught or inculcated among the students. How can we do that? We should develop curiosity and inquisitive mindset. They should be motivated or encouraged to ask questions about everything that happens in our society, everything about our surroundings. If we are able to develop such an inquisitive mindset, that will help us to develop personal value system. Encourage them to ask questions and find out explanations for things happening around them. Help them to take decisions and to develop personalized set of values. These are also very important. So if we help students to ask questions about the surroundings, they develop this inquisitive mindset, definitely we will be able to develop personalized set of values among the students, and that will get reflected in their attitude towards environment. Then community level action should also be implemented. What do you mean by that? We talked about the individual levels where students are encouraged to think a positive ways towards environment, and that should get reflected in the community level as well. What do you mean by that? People should become environmentally conscious at the community level. This has a great advantage. Why? We have to make the students, why we have to bring the people, the community conscious of our environment. They should constitute a pro-environment lobby to force government to accept good environment behavior as part of development. When the government takes some decisions that will negatively impact our environment, if we have a community level consciousness among people, they will oppose such move from the government. If they are alert, if the community is alert, if the people are alert, definitely our government and other agencies will think about development in tune with the nature. That's why community level we have to develop environmental consciousness. Then aspects of environmental value. When we talk about environmental values, we have to understand that it has got various other aspects as well. Look at this. It has linkages to varied environmental concerns. We must appreciate environmental services, that is nature's mechanism. We know that the plants, they do a great service by maintaining oxygen level, oxygen availability by plants. That's a nature's mechanism. We have to appreciate that. We have to understand that. Water cycle of nature. We know that how water is the resource of water is available with the mechanism of water cycle. We need to understand about the maintaining climate regimes. These are all some of the aspects of environmental values that we have. We have to be aware of all these things. Then only we can work towards ensuring the availability of the resources in our earth. Then we have to talk about existence value. It refers to valuing different wonderful aspects of nature, life and its various forms on the earth, and also the interconnectedness of life forms. We may appreciate the wonders of the giant Himalaya. We may accept the beauty of a river. We may accept the beauty of a forest. But have we ever thought about the microorganisms that do a great service to humanity? Every species on the earth has great role. So we need to understand and appreciate the existence value of every organisms. We should also understand, we should also realize the interconnectedness of life forms. Have you ever thought about the people who take rest under the earth? We buried many people and still the earth is fertile. There are microorganisms that helps us to maintain this earth. So everything is interconnected. So we cannot neglect any species, and we cannot ignore the role that they play. Now take a look at the environment beyond wild sphere. We talked about the environment, nature, the protection of nature, the need to have environmental values, and we have to think beyond wild sphere. What do you mean by that? We need to value the incredible beauty in man-modified environments. We have landscapes, patterns of farmland, grains of tea or coffee plantations, urban gardens. All these are man-made environments. They provide peace and tranquility. It preserve, and we find that when in the urban dwellers, when they go to a garden or when they visit any other man-made structures, they get relaxation. So we should not overlook, or we should not undermine the importance of these man-made environments as well. We should also value and preserve ancient structures. This is also important when we talk about environment values. We have to preserve our heritage, conserve traditional landscapes in rural areas and steerscapes in urban settings. These are some of the things that we need to consider when we talk about environmental values. Conserving what you call the ancient structures, traditional landscapes, rural areas, and streetscapes. We have to have an idea about our past. So this is also something that we need to consider when we talk about environmental values. Now, what are the traits, qualities of environmentally conscious individuals? They develop a sense of values that are linked with a better and sustainable way of life for all people, not just a single individual, but everyone. They will take into account the needs and desires of every human beings. Supports positive behavior linked to environment, such as value for nature, cultures, heritage, and equity. They become more sensitive to aspects that negatively impacts on environment, such as loss of species. We know that species extinction is a serious concern today. They also will be concerned about pollution, poverty, animal rights, and other concerns of environment. They appreciate the contributions of philosophical and the writers and the contributions that they made. They appreciate the contributions of philosophers and thinkers on environment. We know that people like Mahatma Gandhi, Tagore, and others, they wrote and thought about nature. They value the efforts that they made. And when we talk about valuing nature, we should value nature herself. As we said, nature for its own existence. Instead of valuing nature for the resources that it provides, we need to understand and value nature for its own existence. That's very important. Accept the oneness of our lives and realize that we are a minuscule part of the nature. We are part of a small part of this big universe, this complex universe. If we accept that reality, then we can become humble and we can respect the different life forms on this earth. Appreciate the wonders of nature's diversity, create effective national parks and wildlife sanctuaries to protect the wilderness. What is left in our nature, it should be protected. And also protect the rights of local people. When we talk about protecting or creating national parks and wildlife sanctuaries, we should also consider the rights of the local people who inhabit in these places. So we have to develop a holistic approach towards life. We have to be sensitive to it, towards our environment. If we are able to develop environment consciousness and environmental values, we can ensure that our earth will survive for the posterity. So this is something that we have to consider. I hope you will read this essay and will develop such an attitude. Hope we'll reflect on this, and if you have some concerns about our environment, definitely all of us, if we together work, definitely we can bring a wonderful society possible. Thank you so much.